top story this morning. Number 10 has insisted that the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is going to fight off any attempt to remove him as leader.
Well, in a bid to shore up the PM's position, Downing Street warned that any plot against his leadership could risk unsettling the markets.
Well, allies of Sir Keir Starmer have accused cabinet ministers such as Wes Streeting and Shabana Mahmood of conspiring against him, reportedly making leadership moves behind the scenes.
Well, supporters of the Health and Home Secretaries, however, dismissed the claims as nonsense.
Well, it comes as Labour continue to spiral in the polls, now standing at just 18%. Bearing in mind they've only been in power, 17 months?
Yeah. Let's talk to broadcaster Duncan Barkes. Morning, Duncan.
Morning.
I mean, the problem that the Prime Minister, that Number 10's got with this, is it doesn't matter who denies it.
Yeah.
It almost doesn't matter how true these particular claims are. The fact it's being talked about is a very bad sign.
Very much so, and Ellie, you hit the nail on the head. You know, less than 18 months in government, and we're seeing the Labour Party appearing to unravel. And as you rightly say, Stephen, you know, it doesn't matter who's saying this, everyone will deny it's the case. I'm cynical enough to reach the conclusion at this stage in my life, talking and writing about politics, that every MP thinks they can do a far better job than the leader of their party. Yeah. So we shouldn't be massively surprised about this, but this is the kind of headline that Keir Starmer doesn't want to see this morning. And it's blown up quite quickly. I went to bed last night being obviously, you know, very responsible, quite early. This wasn't around. Woke up this morning at about 3:10, and it was everywhere. So we have this story circulating. I mean, some of the, if you want to call them, the runners and riders are quite interesting here as people who, if there were to be a leadership contest, who might chuck their hat into the ring. I mean, we have the idea on the front page of the Times this morning that the current Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, would run. And it's like, why would you go back and do a job?
Well, he did such a good job last time.
Exactly. You also have Shabana Mahmood, who's the Home Secretary, and Lucy Powell, who's the new Deputy Labour leader. There's also a narrative knocking around this morning that if there were to be a leadership contest, and of course everyone's saying there everything's fine, but we know that there's a lot of concern with Labour backbench MPs, that the party is doing pretty poorly in the polls at the moment. Also the budget on the 26th of November, that might be a trigger if the budget doesn't do what a lot of these Labour MPs want it to do, because they would find it hard to defend the income tax rise that's been floated, because it would break the manifesto pledge. If there were to be a leadership campaign or contest, it would be Angela Rayner who would be seen as the kingmaker, because she has, and GB News listeners and viewers will recall, she was up until recently Deputy Prime Minister, until she got confused about stamp duty, that she has a lot of support on the left of the party. And while she probably wouldn't run herself, she could certainly influence a lot of people in how they might vote for a future leader.
Does this mean then that if there was a leadership contest, the party would almost inevitably shift more to the left?
I think so.
So the likes of Shabana Mahmood and Wes Streeting wouldn't even be in the running, would they?
No, well, this is really interesting, because who would be the candidate on the left who might be able to get enough votes? And remember, it's not just MPs who would vote. You'd have to get the support of trade unions and constituency parties as well. One name that's been circulated is the former Transport Secretary, Lou Haig, who's a Sheffield MP. You may recall had to resign as Transport Secretary because she got confused over mobile phone ownership and that kind of stuff. So it's fascinating to see this on the front page of a number of our newspapers this morning. It should make Prime Minister's questions later on today incredibly interesting. And also Wes Streeting, who is the Health Secretary, is due to make an announcement this morning. It's been trailed widely about cuts to the NHS and getting rid of 18,000 admin jobs in the NHS as a bid to save money and to put that money into care, and it would fund more hip and knee operations or whatever. So Wes this morning, if he turns up for his various interviews, because he might think, actually, I don't need this kind of heat, will not be able to really get the airtime he wants to talk about his changes to the NHS, because rightly everyone will be going, oi, are you running for leader?
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private internet access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private internet access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
You mentioned this extraordinary briefing overnight, and it was quick, wasn't it? So we had Number 10 come out. We've heard from West Streeting's team. We've heard from Shabana Mahmood's team as well. So why do you think Number 10 picked this moment to elevate the idea that Keir Starmer is under threat? Do you think it's because West Streeting is on the media round today? We've got PMQs.
Yeah, it's about controlling the narrative, isn't it?
And trying to nip it in the bud, I imagine.
Exactly that. You don't want to let this hare run. What you want to do, if I use some blunt language, is you want to shoot it dead so it doesn't really get the airtime. We're talking about it this morning. Downing Street will be thinking we must control the narrative on this. So you have this line that's been fed out by Downing Street saying, if there is a leadership contest, we will fight it. Allies of Starmer are saying, we will stand alongside him. And also you have this line this morning, which is a leadership contest is the last thing this country needs because it was unsettled the markets. So they're going down that route of we need stability. Yeah. But you come back to this. I mean, in my knowledge, less than 18 months into government, you have this party that got in with a whacking majority of over 140 MPs. Unravelling. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, it is extraordinary.
It really is.
But it's because the bad news keeps on coming, doesn't it? I mean, we're expecting very bad news in the budget.
Yeah.
We're also hearing about air passenger duty, which may be going up, and EasyJet saying, well, maybe we'd have to pull out of the UK and relocate somewhere else.
I mean, that's interesting in itself because, air passenger duty, it hits people who want to go on holiday, right?
Yeah.
And also the knock-on effect of that economically would be people like EasyJet just going, do you know what, we're going to have to fire some people or whatever.
But which is why you've got to go counterintuitive on these things, isn't it? And so if you want to grow the economy, actually, you've got to You've got to not overtax, you've got to not over-regulate these sort of things. But also on top of that, and this actually wouldn't help with that, it's the unemployment figures are at the highest for a long time. Plus 4 million Brits now on universal credit.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's two things there. First off, we have an unemployment rate now of 5%, the highest in 5 years. And then the front page of this morning's Times is that universal credit claimants have jumped by 50%. So it's gone up by 1 million more people, and it's topped 4 million for the first time. So again, you have this narrative developing, which is we have a country which appears to be more welfare dependent. Now, ministers are saying this increase is about people being moved from older benefits as they're phased out. So that's what's going on. However, you can't ignore this figure. It's a vast amount of people who are getting universal credit, and they're saying, in this particular case, they don't have to look for work. So there's not if you know anything about the universal credit system, you're on the benefit system, you have to prove that you're looking for work. A big chunk of these people don't have to do that for whatever reason. It might be because they need a back operation or whatever, but it feeds into this sense that we have a big chunk of the UK population simply not working. So therefore, and I say this with respect because there'll be multiple reasons, they're not contributing into the system, which means all of us who are working are carrying a greater burden.
Well, it's the thing, you're quite right to be careful about it, because you do end up thinking everyone who's claiming this shouldn't be. Actually, there should be people on universal credit and they're unable to work and they should be being supported by the state. Problem is, there are too many on there who actually aren't in that boat.
Yeah, and I was talking to someone yesterday whose best friend is a GP, and she was of the view, and she said sometimes the GPs just don't want the conversation. If someone comes into the surgery and just goes, I can't work, they haven't got the time to explore it properly. They just hand a note over. Now, I don't know if that's representative of across the country, but I thought it was a very interesting bit of insight that some GPs just feel like they can't be bothered to have the conversation because they don't have the time, or they don't want the hassle. Because if you have someone going, actually, I can't work, and the GP's going, well, I think you can, in our litigious world, for example, you open up a can of worms.
Yeah, you certainly do. And this is the government that promised to get Britain back to work.
Indeed. It's going remarkably well, isn't it?
Isn't it? Very well indeed.
Very well. Full marks.
Duncan, we'll see you later.
Thank you.